Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 6th meeting of Civic Works Committee. Please check the city website for additional meeting detail information. Meetings can be viewed via live streaming on YouTube and the city website. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Lenape, and the Adawandran. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for meetings upon requests. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact cwc@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. Moving on, any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I see none. It's good to see all our committee members here in the chambers. Moving on to consent items. We have 2.1 to 2.6. Is there any interest of it having any of them pulled? I see none. And I guess just to start it off, I'd like to get a motion to put the consent items on the floor for discussion. Councillor Frank and Councillor Ferreira, second. And with that, I'd like to go to committee members. Any questions? Comments? Maybe just to start it off, I do want to bring to everyone's attention the fourth report of the Integrated Transportation Community Advisory Committee. There is a request there for a tour of the Transportation Management Center, and looking for committee members to receive that report. Councillor Ferreira.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to make a comment on the reservoir. I can hold off and just see the comments for the community or the advisory committee first, if anybody wants to comment on that.
I see none. You can proceed.
Thanks, Chair. So looking at this report, great report. The whole agenda, I guess, I appreciated. But I did want to ask some questions about the reservoir. I guess I only really have one that I'm looking at here, and I just wanted to ask, while the reservoir is down for construction, what kind of risk would the city be facing in an event that we might need the capacity of that reservoir while it's not available?
I'll go to staff.
Thank you. Through the chair, so we do have sufficient capacity in the other two reservoirs. So we have 3 reservoirs at the top of the hill there. We also have the Arbor Reservoir. So between those, we do have sufficient capacity. You might be aware that actually over the past few years, we've had one of the other reservoirs out at each time as well, as we did rehab work on Reservoir 1 and also on 3 last year. That's coming to a close. So those will be brought back online before this one is taken out of service for this work.
Councillor?
No, thank you for that answer. Yeah, I just was wondering about that. That would be the only question I have for the reservoir. So I'll yield to other committee members and possibly gather my questions for some other items on the agenda.
Any other questions from committee members on 2.2? For now, we might as well stay with those questions. I see none. If committee members will allow me from the chair, I do have a question on the work that's already happened, and mainly the trees that have been taken down and being removed. I understand some we were able to transplant, but there's a number of plantings, 972 trees to be planted. And I would like to have a better understanding, because it was a concern from the community about losing these trees, but what is the plan for the number of trees going forward?
Thank you. Through the chair. So we will have more information coming forward on the exact timing and locations of those plantings. At this time, it is still early stages. So through this report, we are providing $563,000 to our partners in forestry who are putting together that plan for sites for that planting because they don't all fit on within the reservoir site and the nature of those plantings. So they will be looking at the timing and the locations that are best for those planting needs for the trees' survival, et cetera. They will also be looking at how closely they can put them to the project site so that we're maintaining or we're offsetting that loss of canopy and habitat within the general area of the project. So I don't have specific answers on that timing at this point, but we will have that going forward at a future date.
Thank you for that information. I think it's important that there's a plan in place and really appreciate the fact that we still have some plans to work on, but they will be ongoing. Thank you. Councillor Trousseau.
Thank you. Through the chair, the removal of trees and not replacing them on site or near the site remains an issue that cuts across many different projects that remains a concern of the public, Mud Creek, other ones. And I appreciate what you just said, that more information will come forward. How will that be communicated to the public, and how will they be able to respond to it?
So through the chair, we typically publish this information through the Get Involved site. There is still an active page on Get Involved for this project, and we can provide updates through that.
Do people have to sort of go to the Get Involved site every week just to see if something's there, or will something be pushed out?
So through the chair, we do also have a contact list of people who have signed up for updates on that project, so we can also push notices out through that.
And others who are not on the update list yet, who might be interested?
So I would recommend if they are interested in that project that they sign up for those updates or they check on the Get Involved site. That would be their best way of ensuring that they have up-to-date information.
Councillor?
I guess that's it. I mean, I just think there needs to be a better way to sort of push information out to people without making them initiate it. I just would much rather see this be a little more transparent.
And just as a follow-up, if we are approached from the community on wanting to get more information on how these trees are going to be replaced, would it also be suggested that they could reach out to forestry as well?
Through the chair, I would suggest going through the project manager and through the contact information that we have on the Get Involved site, just to make sure that all information is going through the one point of contact. It does make some of those communications a little bit more streamlined and consistent and easier. So, but certainly our staff and project managers will be working closely with forestry and will be working together to provide that information. As a follow-up to Councillor Trousseau's comments, I am thinking that we could also, when information becomes available on this plan and so on, we can push that out through social media as well, that there is an update on the page. So as long as they're watching some source of information or another, hopefully we can get that out to them.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you for that as well. Moving on now to 2.3. I know there's a question from a committee member. This is the appointment of consulting engineers for the infrastructure renewal program. Councillor Pribble.
Thank you, and through the chair to the staff. I will start on page 12, by the way. It does say that this is the first round on the infrastructure renewal program. But last meeting, we have also approved already 2nd Street and St. Leonard Street. So the previous ones, would they be part of this first? Because the reason why I'm asking is that it says 2 more rounds, but I'm just wondering if the 2 rounds will be together and if if there are more than just these 2 rounds, because the 2nd Street and Leonard's, I believe it will be probably part of this one?
So through the chair, the consultant awards that we did at the last meeting were for resident construction and contract administration for projects that were under design last year. So when we say in this report that this is the first round, it's the first round of consultant appointments for working on design work this year. So these projects that this design work is for will be actually constructed in 2025. So we have, the infrastructure renewal program has a number of accounts that a lot of projects draw funds from. Our entire program draws funds. So you see a number of different awards out of those accounts. Hence some of the, why you see things being awarded in the previous report for construction for this year, and then consulting this time around. That helps.
Okay, thank you for that answer and follow-up. When I look at the current proposal of the 4 contracts, and they are kind of, it describes that it's kind of the identical in terms of the engineering, pre-design, and detailed design. If I look at the 4, and if I divide it by the meters, there's quite a bit of difference for the cost. Is there a particular, because again, not being an expert, I would say per meter would be a good designation kind of to get the amount pretty similar, but there is kind of I didn't do it roughly 40% differences among some. So can you please explain that to me? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair. So this really comes down to the details of the design work needed for each of the sites. So there may be very different site conditions that are known on each of the projects. There might be a slight difference in the infrastructure that is being replaced or going into it. So we would expect to see some variation depending on the type of project. And all of these projects have been reviewed and are within the costs that we would expect for them.
Counselor?
Okay, thank you, and follow up. On the, if we go to the Appendix A, and I just want to understand this part because there are 3 accounts, and the 2 ES accounts and the EW account. And last meeting we had, in terms of the construction, there were 0 costs. Then the meeting came, today's meeting, now we have construction costs in few $1 million. How did it happen from last time, and where did these construction happen? Did they already happen? Is this a commitment? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair. So as I mentioned, these projects or these account numbers are used for a variety of construction projects. So some of these, or many of them actually, come in under that $3 million mark that we can do administrative awards for. So they don't necessarily come through committee. So these will be projects, and now I would need a little more time to look up exactly which ones have been awarded. But these will be projects that have been awarded, had the tenders closed and been awarded administratively.
Okay, thank you for that. And this area or these roads, when I looked at the map, they are very close to the projection timelines of our RT, or be it RT, BRT. How do we coordinate with the transportation? Because again, it's all in the similar area. Is there going to be a coordination? Is it really that the timing of these streets is so urgent that we are kind of doing it in the same area of the city? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Through the chair. So we do work with the Construction Coordinating Committee to look at how the projects interact with each other and if those interactions can be managed. Sometimes they do need to be done in fairly close timing because of the underground infrastructure making those connections and so on. But we do have a committee that, with people from each of the areas, including directors, that do look at this and to make those decisions.
Counselor?
Thank you. Follow up. Do we have any, because again, coordination, same timing this, and certainly not the best for traffic, not the best for Londoners, but because we are doing this kind of together in the same, do we have certain cost savings, or is there certain effectiveness, efficiency in doing it kind of in the same area, similar time?
Through the chair, sometimes. Depends on the nature of the project and exactly how they interact, but there are certainly times that we would do this. The 3rd Street, for example, so that's a Pottersburg Creek sanitary trunk sewer. So that's work that's continuing from one end to the other, so it's got a timeline as well. And then we would be making those tie-ins on Dundas. So although separate projects, we certainly look at how they interact and to get that best value where we can.
Okay, and thank you. I don't have no more questions to 2.3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pribble. We have the remaining consent items on the floor. Councillor Ferreira.
Thanks, Chair. This one has to do with the Adelaide wastewater treatment plant clarifier drive replacement. I guess first, would it be possible if staff could give us just a brief summary of the drive replacement and what that part is and how it works and what kind of material comes out of that, just like the process of that? Would that be a possibility?
So through the chair, I'm actually going to pass that one to Mr. Odekirk because once we get into like the details of how our treatment plants work, I am not the right person.
Of course, through the chair. Yeah, so our clarifiers are the final stage, or in this case, the secondary clarifiers, the final stage of our treatment. It's a large circular tank and it has a mechanism within it. There's a central pillar and then an arm that swings around and sweeps up anything else that's remaining in the water. This unit that we're replacing is actually the central drive unit, so the part that actually rotates that arm, it needs to be replaced. That mechanism is over 20 years old, probably approaching 30 years old, and it's just reached its end of life. And so in order to replace it, we have to replace like for like, and in this case, that has to go back to the original manufacturer.
Councillor.
Thank you for that. So it leads to my next question, I guess, with the replacement. I did see a line in this report where it says many of the components of the Adelaide wastewater treatment plant are aging. So I just want to know, what would we expect in the future for replacements for the entire wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, and through the chair, we try to stay ahead of these things with preventive maintenance programs, and typically we're able to replace little pieces of it, replacing seals, bearings, those types of things. We can do a lot of that work on our own, but there will be times when the overall mechanism or the overall component fails and we have to replace those. So we try to limit the number of times that those occur, and we keep track of how they're progressing and they're aging, and if we can stay ahead of it, that's great. The long-term plans for Adelaide, under our DMAP project, we're also coordinating the replacement or the restoration of Section 1, which is going to gain us a little more treatment capacity there and a little more buffer to get us through a long-term upgrade in about 20 years. And so once we hit that point, we'll be looking at wholesale changes of everything. So our goal will be to try to extend the life of the existing infrastructure to get us through to that point.
Thank you for that. Okay, I can move on to, I guess, the next item. I got a question for the Adelaide Street Bridge work that we're doing with connecting the Thames Valley Parkway with Stony Creek. So I just wanted to know, I do see a note here that the pathway connection along the bridge will see the removal and replacement of the west side sidewalk with a new pathway. So I just wanted to know, with that removal, I do believe we have a sidewalk on the east side, but I just wanted to know if I could get a little bit more information with respect to that.
Mr. McCrae?
Through the chair, yes, the pathway project proposes a pathway across the west side of the bridge. So the plan would be to replace the existing, which is currently a sidewalk and a bike lane, with a combined multi-use path. So it would accommodate all active transportation users, so both cyclists and pedestrians, to the required width that fits within the rest of the pathway.
Councillor?
Thank you, I appreciate that. So the pathway is going to be accessible to all kind of modes, I guess, active modes of transportation. Okay. That would be the only questions I have for that. I guess I'll move us on to the last item with the Holtby Municipal Drain Petition. I was wondering if we could just get a little more information on that. I was a little, I'm not reading through the report, the drain itself. I just wanted to know, what does that mean? Am I expecting like an actual drain, or is there some grading of the area? I was wondering if you could give a little bit of expansion on that part.
Thanks for that, Councillor. I think we're starting to become drain experts here, but I will go to staff for sure.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, we have had a number of drainage reports lately, which, so I'm learning a lot more about them in the last little while as too. So basically, we had a petition come in to improve the drainage in this area, and it would be related to a municipal drain. So the consultant would look at all the drainage in the area going to it, any needed works to improve the overall drainage and reinstate the drain to its intended function.
Counselor?
That's all my questions, thank you.
And just as a quick follow-up, this was created, this was an ask from the community, and there was a petition. We are to approve it, and the community pays the cost as well. So lots of interesting information as we make decisions on municipal drains here. So with that, I see no further questions from committee members. We do have Councillor Pribble.
Thank you. Just a comment on 2.5 and the TVP. Last week, our staff organized a public meeting at one of the schools, and it was well attended, and overall it has been a really positive, it has been a positive response from the public, and I'm very excited about this project and hopefully looking forward to getting it done soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have a motion moved and seconded, and we can proceed to vote.
Yes.
Councillor Pribble voting yes. Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Great, moving along. We have scheduled items for direction. I see none. We do have deferred matters and additional business. And we do have our deferral list, matters list. It does relate to the garbage and recycling collection and next steps, as well as updates. And there has been a request to see if we can move the requested reply date to Q3. I know we are going to be receiving a report, an updated report. Maybe I'll go to Mr. Stanford just to acknowledge that. We did get an update from you as well, since there were, I think it's important that the community be updated, but when can we expect the report moving forward, and the reason for the deferral to the Q3 as well.
Oops. Thank you, Madam Chair. The report on the green bin, as you recall, there was a request to actually report back sooner than the end of the year. So we are completing our work by the month of June. The first meeting we can get to will be July 16th for CWC. So the work will be done in June, but by the time it goes through the submission process, we're looking at July 16th. A couple of the items on the deferred matters list will be covered in that report where we can. Other items may have to be deferred, and that's why we're asking for the Q2 to be changed to Q3. So whatever we don't cover on July 16th, we will cover at another point in the Q3 period.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions from committee members? I see none. I guess I do need a motion for receiving the deferral list. Councillor Frank and Councillor Ferreira. And we can open up the vote. Yes, Councillor Pribble has a question.
I'm sorry, did I hear, through the chair to the staff, did I hear right that certain portion to be moved to Q3?
Sorry, through the chair. As we tackle the green bin update report, a couple of the items there will be covered. Anything that is not covered in that green bin update report would be pushed a little bit later in Q3, correct?
And just adding to that, we can expect a update July 16th. Yeah.
No, thank you. So I understood right. The only thing is now we are voting now kind of just accepting this information, or are we voting now, extending some parts to Q3? I just want to know what we are kind of voting on.
We are just accepting the deferral list at the moment and changing it to Q3 as well.
Okay, so we are doing both.
Sorry?
So we are accepting the report, but
Yes.
because there's no Q3 in this report.
I'll have the clerk speak to it.
Through the chair, the deferred matters list is more of an administrative document, so the update has been made to Q3 for the official deferred matters list on file. That will show up on the next one that shows up on an agenda. We don't need a motion for that because I can make that change administratively. Right now, we just need to receive the current one that's on the agenda.
Counselor?
Thank you for the explanation. No more questions.
If you can open up the vote.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
And looking for an adjournment. Counselor Frank, seconded by Counselor Pribble. Oh, we can do this as a hand vote.
It's carried.
That's carried. Have a great day, everyone.